Good day. I'm Peter Rony, and I live in Blacksburg, Virginia. If you've viewed any of my other YouTube videos, you'll recognize this image. And my statement is that when this is image present, I can talk about anything, even matters that have nothing to do with this YouTube presentation. Well, I don't have much to say, so let me proceed to the next slide. Who am I? Now, if you've viewed my other videos, you will see that I include this bio at the beginning of every video, and you might ask, why am I doing so? Well, first I notify you that my email address is peter@rony.com. And now I'll just tell you that my YouTube search phrase is now Peter space Rony space Blacksburg. It's got a lot of characters, and my hope that it's sort of a uncommon phrase that might help you locate my other videos. I'm a chemical engineer by profession. I've spent 6 years in industry. I taught for 31 years at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Virginia, and I've been retired for 11 years. I'm 76 years old, and I'm not a social networker, so I'm warning you. However, I frequently use email and have been doing so since 1980. This is sort of unusual video, but my objective is to show how this 2004 tournament gives you insight into the process of encoding items. Well, in the case of the tournament, the items are colleges and universities. I remind you that in this video, I am focusing on the left side of this image, the encode process. Now, the information here are the basketball teams around the nation that have qualified to be included in the 2004 tournament. And I'm going to show you how to encode all 64 teams and keep track of the teams that continue on in the tournament. And what do you do with this information? Well, you have binary code. You can input it into a microprocessor chip, and the chip can process it and perhaps provide output on a laptop screen that gives you a nice summary of what's happening in the tournament. But what I'm doing is encoding 64 basketball teams. That's my information. Well, it's 2015, and they now call this tournament March Madness. Sort of a cute term. And this tournament goes on for most of March. It's hugely popular in the United States, very profitable to the NCAA and to the television, the channel that broadcasts it. So it's a real good sporting event. I speculate why it's successful, and I think the reason why is it includes 64 starting teams. That's a lot of teams for a single sport. And so many teams that even small colleges can aspire to be included in the initial 64. And the small colleges are pretty important to this tournament because they do not have a lot of athletes. In fact, they probably don't have much money to give scholarships. So a basketball team only requires 5 players at a time. So if you have a total of 10 players, then you are able to substitute players to give them a time to rest between when they actually are in the court. Very, very successful tournament. Well, how do they run the tournament? Well, they got 64 teams initially, and they pick 4 cities scattered around the nation, and they call them regionals, regional tournament or bracket or whatever, but they're regional, they're sub-tournaments. And why am I making this video? Because I really have enjoyed watching the NCAA tournament, and I've been watching it for decades, especially as far back as the early 70s when John Wooden had a string of very successful UCLA teams that were well coached and won many NCAA championships. In fact, in college sports, there probably is nobody of the likes of John Wooden. He is one of the great coaches of collegiate athletics. So let's go back to 2004, and here is the starting group of 64 NCAA teams. Now you will notice the following. I have assigned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a 6-bit binary code, a unique one, to each team. So the binary code starts from all 6 digits being 0 and goes to, in this case, Florida A&M, which has logic 1 for all 6 bits. Okay, so what happens next? Well, this is too many teams, so the first objective is to eliminate all except the 16 best teams. So these are called elimination games. At the beginning of the tournament, there are 4 days of elimination. And in 2004, these occurred between March 18th and March 21st. So from 64 initial teams. And here is an encoding table. 2015, these 16 are called the Sweet 16. And here they are in 2004. Well, that's still too many, so we need another round of elimination games. And these occur between March 25th and March 28th. So the Sweet 16 teams played, and after the elimination games, there were only 4 teams remaining. And these were called the final. These are now called the Final Four. And the Final Four is the last stage in the tournament. So, which games did I follow? Well, with the initial elimination, there were 32 games and then 16 games, and there was no way that I could follow so many of them. So what I did is let them play, and after the elimination finished, I then looked and observed who was left. The same thing happened a week later. There were 16 teams left, and still too many games for me. So I let them play, and then I saw which teams were in the final four. The tournament is a lot of fun because there are upsets. Many of the teams are pretty well matched, and a successful shot at the last minute could win a game for either team. All right, let's continue. Here we have the final four in the 2004 NCAA tournament. My favorite team over the years has been Duke. They have an excellent coach in Mike Krzyzewski, and they've won a number of NCAA championships. Okay, so here they are. Now, there's so few teams that I make plans to watch every game in the Final Four, which I do. Well, the games were played, and then only two teams were left, and they were University of Connecticut and Georgia Tech. Now we're down to a single bit encoding, where I've assigned Connecticut a logic 0, Georgia Tech logic 1. This is the NCAA championship game, which frequently is played in early April. Well, who won? It's 2015. I don't remember. So how do I find out? Well, it's the computer process. Go to Google and use the search phrase, who was the 2004 NCAA champion? And right now, as I view the slide, or as I created the slide, I didn't know. So who was the champion? Go to Google, and here's the answer. University of Connecticut beat Georgia Tech. The University of Connecticut coach, Jim Calhoun, is an excellent coach, and he's won a number of NCAA championship over the years. So, I thank you for viewing this YouTube video, and you've spent the entire period of time, and what you've learned is the use of encoding tables. So we have actually 1-bit, 2-bit, 3-bit, and not 5-bit, but 6-bit encoding tables. So that's really the genius and the success of the NCAA tournaments. The last one I watched was this year, 2015, and in early April, Duke became the NCAA champion.